Welcome to On the Brink, a fresh lens to take you and your business to new heights. Hi, I'm Andy Simon. I'm your host, and today we have with us Jared Tate. Jared was with us a year ago. Jared saying hi. And
Hello, Dr. Simon. Thanks for having me on again.
we're going to do this as part video, part audio, so stay tuned and watch as the discussion develops. But Jared was on board to tell us about Digibyte literally a year ago. And now we're really interested to know in the year what's happened. And so I'm going to ask him to start by telling those who aren't familiar with Digibyte why we're so excited about it. And I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself and how he founded this. And then we'll go into the changes that are happening, because the Digibyte world keeps asking, when are we going to hear from Jared again? What's going on? We need more PR. It's so fantastic. It's much better than Bitcoin. How come not enough people know about it? So let's start with Jared. Who are you and why is Digibyte so important?
All right, great. Well, just a short recap here. I first discovered Bitcoin in 2012. I was absolutely blown away with the technology. And at the time, I was basically running around telling everybody, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But at the time, a lot of people didn't really understand, didn't know. From that, you know, position, I guess, I was able to kind of have some time from 2012 to 2014 to actually analyze the core Bitcoin protocol. And I saw the ability to make some significant improvements in the core code in terms of speed, security, and viability. And so in the fall of 2013, I was like, okay, I'm going to create a new project, and we're going to actually try and test some things that eventually could be included into the Bitcoin core algorithm. Fast forward to 2019, some of those changes have not yet found their way into Bitcoin Core. I hope they will someday. But Digibyte has become a very vibrant, thriving blockchain and cryptocurrency ecosystem in its own right. The real key fundamental for what Digibyte's vision has been since January of 2014 was when the Genesis block, which was the first block in the Digibyte blockchain, was hashed with the headline, target 110 million customers' data stolen. And since then, we have worked to make the Digibyte protocol as fast, as secure, and as reliable as possible. And over the last 5 years, we've made numerous improvements. We continue to do so each and every day. And actually, in fact, since the last time you and I talked, I think we've released 3 separate different updated versions of the underlying core protocol with some pretty significant improvements that will continue to push Digibyte to be faster, to be more reliable, and to be more secure into the future. So that's kind of the quick introduction. I would, if you're brand new to Digibyte, I would definitely encourage you to go check out digibyte.io. You can find a little bit more information, and we warmly welcome you to the community. Come check out what we're all about.
Well, Digibyte is not just another Bitcoin. It is a better Bitcoin. It's a better than. And talk about some of the changes you've put in place this past year on your way someplace, because I think your purpose is not to be just another, but to be the only or the best of the rest. What's going on?
Yeah, we definitely have a much more reliable, and we have a, not to mention, faster. So some of the basic differences between Bitcoin and Digibyte are the fact that Digibyte's actually 40 times faster. So the individual block for Bitcoin occurs every 10 minutes. With Digibyte, it's every 15 seconds. Secondly, because Digibyte uses 5 unique mining algorithms that are independent and weighted differently. I don't want to confuse everyone too much, but there's this thing in a blockchain called difficulty adjustment. And with Bitcoin, that only happens every 2 weeks. And that actually causes some problems and actually allows for security vulnerabilities that have been exploited in the past on other lesser known blockchains. Well, we fixed that, and we've made a series of improvements on that. But what it really allows for us to do is have a very secure system for the mining and the security of the network. And in fact, there's actually going to be a report that comes out. I can't talk too much about it, by a very large institution that has spent quite some time with their in-house cryptographers and mathematicians, basically calculating just how much more secure Digibyte is than Bitcoin. And it even blew me away when I saw the numbers. And it was probably some of the most advanced mathematics I'd seen in an analysis. But for those watching, that'll hopefully be coming out here in the next few weeks, although I can't speak on behalf of this specific institution. We're going to let them release it on their own accord, but I'm excited for that to come out, and that'll actually help dispel some of this misnomer and misinformation that's out there about, and this is the system we refer to as DigiShield. But anyway, that's one of the reasons. Another thing focusing on that we like to focus on is, in the security aspect is so many people think that a blockchain can be just used for financial applications, which it is very revolutionary. There's a lot of amazing things you can do, but we're excited with all the other things you can do with the blockchain. For instance, since the last time we talked, we have got quite a bit more adoption with what we call DigiID. It's now in our mobile wallets, Android and iOS. Several companies have started using it. And what DigiID really is imagine you replace passwords. You no longer need to remember all these different passwords for all these different websites. You use your mobile phone, which is already a second device that you can use to log into almost anything, anybody who integrates with it. So that's another reason why Digibyte is going in a different direction than a lot of other projects in this space at the moment.
Well, there are two things that I think are very important and relevant. Cybersecurity, on the one side, has created, I don't think the public is aware of the degree to which about the hackers that are getting into all kinds of businesses, small ones, mid-size, and personal, and stealing their stuff. So there's a whole piece of security there, and it's vulnerable. And then there are a whole lot of ways that blockchain is being applied to industries that you might not have thought of, whether it's diamonds or pharmaceuticals, so that people have more security. So there's something very important coming here. Let's talk about cybersecurity and the benefits of what you've got to reduce the risk that people have now, because it is a high risk.
Well, fundamentally, people need to understand that the internet as it exists and functions today was never designed to be secure. Going back to the 60s and 70s and 80s, you had several researchers at different academic institutions that literally had what was the equivalent of a phone book, although for some of the younger readers, I myself haven't seen a phone book in like a decade now, but if you would imagine a phone book that had these numbers that look similar to phone numbers, which are called IP addresses, that's how they would communicate and look each other up. So the entire the protocol messaging system that was designed to allow for this to happen, TCP/IP, was never designed with security in mind. So it's the analogy. We're actually writing. So one of the other things that we've been working on here over the last year is a book, and this book that I've been working on, Blockchain 2035, goes into a lot of discussions about this, and we're actually getting close to doing pre-orders and sales here in the next few weeks. But one of the analogies we talk about in this particular instance is imagine a bridge. If you have a bridge that's built on sand with some very loose rock material, and then you build a modern paved highway on top of it, and then you lay modern infrastructure, gas pipes, cables on top of it, and you put fancy lights on it, give it a nice paint job. Well, the underlying core foundation is still broken, and that's what our internet's like today. And that bridge analogy, I think, is a very good example. And so what we need to do is we need to start replacing some of these pillars and these underlying support pieces in our internet architecture. And blockchain is the perfect utility and tool to do that with. So, that's one of the biggest things we're trying to help raise awareness with is the internet is fundamentally broken at its core, basic support level. It needs to be improved upon, and blockchain networks and blockchain technology can fit in a lot of places to actually pick up the slack and fix a lot of these problems. So that's the cool part, and it's going to take time for this to be carried on. But the cool part is here Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook just came out and said, oh, blockchain can be used for password authentication and replace the existing system, which, by the way, I should note, we actually got in an argument with the Facebook chief security officer over this just shortly after I think we talked last year. So we are making headway, and bigger players are starting to take notice.
Well, but with that in mind, I want to talk about some of the industries that you see progressing. Because when we talked last time, you had just had a really good supply chain story that didn't turn into the kind of opportunity that we had thought it was. You could really speed up the supply chain with crypto secure tenders and contracts like that. But it worked, but it didn't work. And now I'm beginning to see supply chain becoming hot. And what other ones are you seeing? Because I have a whole bunch that I've been researching, talking to people about. There seems to be an abundance of small but growing appreciation of what blockchain can do.
Yeah, in terms of the supply chain, I would say that it is out there, it is working. It's just some of these companies involved just don't really want to like publicly hype it up and talk about it, whether for anti-competitive reasons, I don't really know. But yeah, it is becoming, a hotter thing, and you are seeing it more. The biggest turn I think that I've seen in the last 12 months in the industry is, the last time we talked, we were at the tail end of the ICO madness and the ICO craze. And it seems like the market and the industry has matured now. People have gotten more aware. Regulators have stepped in quite a few occasions. And you're now starting to see serious institutions take this space serious. And you're seeing power moves across the blockchain industry for this whole custodial services. So all the big players in the space are making their custodial acquisitions, and I think it's just a matter of time, possibly months, maybe 6 months at the most, before you start seeing some more significant movement into this space by the traditional big institutions, financial institutions. So we're well on our way for blockchain technology to becoming its own independent asset class, which I've said all along it needed to be defined as its own thing. And you have states like, for instance, like Wyoming, that just passed some amazing legislation recognizing the fact that you should be able to hold custody of your own digital assets without needing to go through a broker. And so you had these two regulatory pushes in the United States. You had one that was pioneered, in New York, that says, oh, well, we need to mirror the existing financial system. We need to have these middlemen. We need to have these brokers. When the reality is, with digital assets, we don't need that. So, I'm hoping more and more states will follow Wyoming's lead. And it'll help usher in a whole new era of prosperity and a new digital revolution of digital assets. Because it's, we're well on our way. If you combine the cybersecurity piece with this whole notion of a unique digital asset, we can start doing a lot of amazing things that can streamline the efficiency of pretty much everything. So,
well, the last time we were talking, you were pretty fascinating to me, because it was exciting that much of the rest of the world, 7 billion people, we're 350 million. The rest of the 7 billion people were really into what's going new. So, Tate Farm in Germany is putting blockchain onto eggs so that the people who are buying them know where they came from. They're putting them on cattle from Wyoming. So, you have grass-fed beef. So, you have Australian beef going into Vietnam. The rest of the world was beginning to adopt it fast. And it was very interesting, because here in the States, there were lots of resistors who didn't want to be disrupted by it. But next thing you know, Africa, the whole place is beginning to adopt it in ways that can see enormous potential for it. Even pharmaceutical companies now are beginning to put the technology in, so you're not getting counterfeit, but you're getting the real thing. So I'm beginning to watch, not the hype, but I was excited by, I like the hype, but I'm looking for, substantial, well, because the hype gives it implicit halo effect. There's something big here, guys, pay attention. But now I'm watching it actually. When Walmart tells its vegetable producers to put blockchain so they know where their lettuce is coming from, there's something big coming. So
yeah.
So I'm looking at that. What are you seeing?
Well, I absolutely agree with you. For instance, last November, I was in Norway, and I was talking to some fishermen who do salmon fishing, and they were putting salmon in, and you could all the way to your plate verify this was wild caught Norwegian salmon
Oh,
on a blockchain.
um,
So yeah,
yeah.
um, yeah, very much so. Every day I'm still learning new ideas, new applications. The one problem I'm seeing though is a lot of people have some very amazing ideas. They're ambitious, but there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding about the underlying, that those underlying pillars, you know. And so you see people that are building some of these applications on top of existing platforms that are either one, not actually decentralized, or two, just can't scale to handle a production application. Um, so that's kind of what I'm seeing now is people are starting to learn their lesson. They're realizing, hey, not all blockchains are the same, and there's been a lot of, like you said, hype, and a lot of this hype was misappropriated towards blockchains that, let's be honest, weren't really that decentralized. A handful, even today, of the you go to Coin Market Cap and you look at some of them, and a lot of these things are running on 12, 27 servers controlled by the same people. That's a cluster database. It's not a blockchain. So we still have a ways to go. I think, and to be honest, there's always going to be a gamut, and what one person calls a blockchain, what another person calls a blockchain. There's always going to be differences there, and there's definitely different applications and needs for different types. But there is, I still think some confusion that needs to be ironed out in the industry, and that's where it comes down to doing podcasts and interviews like this, and information and books, etc. So
Here. Now, I want to go back to your Digibyte, just for make sure that the listeners realize that Digibyte is on a blockchain structure, but there are other applications. Digibyte, your fans are looking for more play out of Digibyte. They want to know how come there's not more noise about it. Give them some perspective about how you're building the use of it, where it's becoming very viable, where you're beginning to get the kind of installation of it, so people are carrying it in their wallets. Apple Pay is using it. Give us some sense of how it's becoming more acceptable.
well, first and foremost, I like to describe Digibyte as an Oreo, right? At the very base level, you have the communications protocol. And what really makes that effective is you can do a lot of innovative things with it. And we're just not even beginning to scratch the surface of what can be done at that level. But that middle level, or the Oreo, is where what we call the digital asset layer. And that's where Digibyte as a cryptocurrency or a digital asset comes in. And that's how you incentivize people to run these nodes. So we have thousands of nodes, which are just servers or laptops or computers running the full Digibyte Core QT wallet. That's all that is. You go to digibyte.io, go to downloads, download that, and you become part of the network and you help secure it. That's all it takes. Now, once you have that level, then you have this top level, which is the exciting level, which is the applications level. So we have been testing, and we're getting closer and closer to launch of what we call Digi Assets, which is going to allow people. We've already been doing it with the real estate project I'm working on. We've already been demo test issuing stuff. But part of the reason we haven't publicly gone out there and done this yet is one of the things I've learned in this space over the last 7 years is it's always better to under promise and over deliver than the opposite. And there's been way too many times I've seen people in this space go out and promise a bunch of stuff. The traders, the algo bots, everything gets involved, goes sky high, and as soon as you release the product, it just, the market tanks, and it's not healthy. And so, one of the reasons we're still around, and if you took a snapshot of where we're standing in the coin market cap, which, for those that know me, they know I hate that. I think coin market cap's done more of a disservice to this industry than in any sort of service, because comparing the different types of blockchains in one list just doesn't make sense. I mean, right now you have 6 or 7 stable coins pegged to the US dollar that should not be directly compared to something like Bitcoin or Digibyte. But nonetheless, that's still where everybody goes. But if you snapshot of that list, we've consistently been there since launch in 2014. There's really only 5 or 6 projects that can say that 5 years later. And part of the reason that we've consistently been around is this notion of it's better to basically under promise and over deliver than to go out and talk a big game and hype something up and then not actually deliver a real working product. So You know, that's one of the things we're known for in the space is, hey, we're going to build something that works, it's secure, it's fast and efficient. Um,
Low and steady is going to win this race, huh?
yeah, you know, we're looking to the year 2035 and beyond. You know, and we've been saying that since day one. You know, we're here for the long run. So, and at this point, you know, there's really not very many groups that can say that. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a fair criticism. We do get a lot of feedback that we should do more marketing and PR. And to be fair, since we last talked, there's been a tremendous amount of people and community members. They came together, they formed the Digibyte Awareness Team, and they've done a phenomenal job over the last 12 months. They brought on, I can't even count how many different partnerships. They've got us on new exchanges. They've got us in new wallets. They've got us like, I mean, there's over 100 things that they've done. So this is occurring behind the scenes, which, let's be honest, as you well know, in the business world, a lot of things aren't happening on a massive Twitter campaign. You know, they're happening in private conversations at events or LinkedIn messages in a professional setting. And you know, just for everybody to know, we have a team of well over a couple dozen people that are out there doing that on a daily basis now. Which is absolutely fantastic. They've done a phenomenal job. And we've had people that are now going to events from California to Virginia to Europe. We had a phenomenal event last fall in London. We have more. We're having our Digibyte Global Summit in Amsterdam on April 19th. If you go to digibytesummit.io, really looking forward to that. It'll be the first global gathering we've ever had. So there's actually been a tremendous amount of progress over the last 12 months on the marketing front. And in fact, I would say we have had many more people come into the Digibyte community in a very brutal bear market
Yes,
than we ever have in the past. So the community itself and the amount of supporters, the amount of developers is actually bigger now than it's ever been in the history.
good.
The amount of people that are interested, it's, you know, since we last talked, it's actually been crazy. The people that have reached out, you know,
So,
working on stuff.
the title of my book is called On the Brink. You are on the brink of soaring. You know, it just feels like it's coming along with that Oreo. We got to build that bottom layer, and then we got to make sure the center one is working, and then we can get the top going. But everyone's going to be eating Oreos. I hope you're bringing Oreos to your
Yes, Digibyte Oreos. Yes.
Oreos because it's
Yeah.
visual of exactly how you're building a business.
Yeah, it's actually a great analogy. You know, for sure. You know, we really have spent the last 5 years building the best bottom layer of that Oreo we can, so that way we're able to build an even better, you know, top asset layer that does a lot of stuff. You know, I mean, we're talking the everything from real estate to, you know, like tickets at a concert to, you know, actual you know, the sky's the limit. You know, like wills and deeds and legal documents being, you know, notarized, put in a blockchain, you know, all sorts of stuff. So,
Well, I mean, I guess the beauty of having you today is that a year later, things are really happening, but not necessarily hitting you on the head with them or creating explosions, not necessary. You just got to build a huge network of people who find Digibyte to be the future. So give me a little sense over the next year. So if we come back a year from now, you know, some of the things that you're thinking about or hot that you're going to be focused on, the things that you can talk about.
well, so definitely, Digi Assets, I think, is going to open up a lot of doors and a lot of avenues, because, you know, there's two things we need to make sure. Well, three things. Number one, we got to make sure it works and it's secure. Number two, we have to make it easy to use and we have to explain it to people and we have to provide tools. You know, that's one fair criticism we've had over the past, you know, few years is, yeah, we've developed a lot of very interesting stuff, but some of it was so complex, it was hard to get out there and to chew up in smaller pieces, you know, so people could easily wrap their mind or heads around it. And then number three, is we definitely have to make sure that it's a real world utility that actually makes somebody's life better, and it actually is solving a real world problem. Because when I see and I think of like mainstream mass adoption, I see somebody using an app that's tied in, built on top of the Digibyte blockchain. They don't even know they're using it. They just see a little powered by Digibyte icon there, and then they're able to basically, you know, get along with their everyday life and their daily routine in an easier manner, with whatever that might be. So that's, I think, the three things that we need to do to make that work. The other thing, we're actually just about to launch the website for blockchain2035.com.
Super.
Hopefully, we've spent a lot of time on it. Basically, I think I mentioned it last year, and it was working on outlines, and here we are 12 months later. It's been a work in progress, and we're trying to position that to be almost the, I hate to use the word Bible, but I guess guide for the industry. We evaluate existing projects, we try and explain and break down the basics of a blockchain, but we get into advanced things like blockchain being the rails for artificial intelligence,
Yes.
or to secure IoT devices, or even the geopolitical ramifications of the First Nation states that either one, adopt an existing public cryptocurrency, or two, try and attempt to issue their own, which we're now starting to see. And we're trying to bring some of these relevant things into the book as soon as possible. But hopefully, this will have some sort of impact on helping educate and raise awareness for a lot of things that I see are missing in the industry. Um, as far as adoption, I can't help but think that there's going to be more and more people involved in this space. 12 months from now, I see it every day. There's more and more people that they just, once they discover it, they start going down the rabbit hole, and
Yeah.
next thing you know, they're fully involved.
I
So
think it is rippling. They taste and all of a sudden they want more, and next thing you know, it ripples down and they don't see the world without it anymore. It's very interesting because I always think that technology should be invisible and beautiful, and that's exactly what you're creating. Something that's invisible, I won't even know that I'm using blockchain. It'll be beautiful because it makes my problems go away, and the solution is simple and easy. And it sounds like that's the kind of vision you have for what we can create using this technology, that people don't have to worry about it. It'll be like the electric, but they'll make life so great that they'll be thrilled that it's there. And they'll rave about the solution, not necessarily the technology for doing it. Is that what you're envisioning?
yeah, absolutely. I like to use the analogy to the Android operating system. It's completely open source. Although the difference is it is still owned by a private company, which that's actually an interesting thing to note. Part of the reason I think we've had the success in terms of bringing new people and new partnerships and new things in over the past 12 months is, there is no company behind Digibyte. There was no ICO. There's no pre-mine to burn. Literally, to keep it going, it takes two computers in a basement. That's it. So if you look at a lot of other groups in this space who built up, overbuilt, they're laying off 50% of their workforce. And there's a very unique thing that I noticed and I witnessed. So for those that remember about 12 months ago, or the fall of 2017, we're like, oh, we need a foundation. We need a foundation. We need an official legal entity, because that's what everybody else does. Well, the reality is we don't really need it, and we've determined that. And whenever we brought up in the community the idea of paying one or two developers here and there, all of a sudden we went from this mass cooperation to like quite a bit of infighting, and it's this weird human psychological development. So then once we decided, we're like, hey, look, nobody gets paid. If you want to volunteer, contribute, we're all on the same page. We're all in this together. We're all equal. Let's just keep moving it. And then all of a sudden, it just galvanized the amount of effort and energy and the amount of people that were attracted to the project. It was a very fascinating observation to see happen.
Well,
Uh,
we use that because it's magical.
yeah, it really is. And I feel like when you have something like that, and you have so many smart, talented, very intelligent people across the globe. I mean, we're talking from New Zealand to Australia to Holland to California to Texas to just all over the world. Such brilliant, smart, motivated people who believe in the project and the idea and vision, and they're united in that. And it just starts snowballing and picking up its own energy. And so that's the amazing, the beautiful thing about it. So, yeah, it was maybe one day I would love to like kind of write like I was a psychology major in college, so it'd be interesting to kind of write observations about that. And, it's one of those things where I found it's like over the past 5 years, if I go and I try and hire a developer to do a specific task, they look at it as a job and it's a specific thing. But if you pose a problem, a code challenge,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you have all these anonymous like entries and submissions that are sometimes brilliant code to fix it, and they just want to be able to contribute and to be part of the ecosystem and part of the team and part of the future.
The
So,
thing that strikes me is what you're describing is transformative. It isn't about the structure we have now with corporations and controls and hierarchy. That whole word decentralized is exactly what you're creating, is a something with great purpose, great mission, that has little to do with the format, the name. It's just participating in something that's, I'll call it magical, that gives people great sense of accomplishment and meaning, and their lives are better because of it. It is really magic. It's so exciting to listen to you because it's sort of contagious.
well, and then that's the exciting part, and this is actually what I was going to get to, is in terms of like what I would like to see happen and continue to happen. Part of the hardest problem we've had is when we've sat down, and we've sat down with some major companies, and not necessarily myself, but other individuals in the community. The hardest thing they have to overcome is they're like, wait, you're not a company. There's not official titles. There's not this, and it's just like you could see their minds just kind of going back and forth, trying to like wrap around it.
Well, Martians have landed.
Yeah. Well, and so I think this paradigm shift, and that's what's super interesting with your background and what you've studied, is I really do feel like I think in my mind, I'm like, if I look to the future, like say the year 2050 or 2100, when, let's say hypothetically, there is no currency out there, right? There is no more money because money is used as power. But what there is there's some super advanced technology that has unleashed the human creative spirit, and more importantly, given us our time back. So we're not worried about where we're going to get our next meal. We're not worried about how we're going to keep a roof over our head, right? And we unleash the true creative part of humanity. And it's like, what is going to motivate people in organizations in that era, right? And that's like like you said, giving them a purpose, showing them a vision, and allowing them to be part of it and contribute it as they see fit. And I really think that's what this technology is also doing.
Another time we will talk about what we're seeing going on in industries that are flipping the hierarchy, where the leadership is underneath the staff, not on top of them, and they're giving them empowerment, accountability, responsibility for making things happen, and letting them do it. And the networks are coming together, the silos are breaking down, and next thing you know, people are sharing their talent. You know, the idea of managing minds instead of hands? It's not my
Yeah.
time, it's not clicking, it's a problem to solve. How complicated? I'd love to do it. And all of a sudden, they all get together and do it. And I'm watching and I'm going, ooh, there's something bigger than a bear here. It's a whole different way of taking the talent and the smarts. We've created all this intelligence. Well, how do we use it? So it's a very exciting time.
Well, what's fascinating about that is I think I took part of that. So after 3.5 years of Army officer training,
Ooh,
that is kind of the structure and the thing they teach you is you don't want to micromanage people. You have what they call operations order. There's an objective. It's like 2 or 3 sentences. And then from there, as you go down to the very person at the bottom of the totem pole, kind of like you said, then inverting it, they're the ones that can make all the decisions they need on the fly.
yep.
And that's what I've learned with development is you just put it out there, and if you try and micromanage how an app's built or anything like that, you're going to be disappointed. But if you let people be creative and do what they see fit, you come up with some amazing things. So yeah, that's interesting to see it or hear it from your perspective. That's what you're seeing in the traditional corporate world.
Maybe we're on the brink of seeing some major human transformations, and you are truly leading that, you're giving them a platform on which to actually do what makes them excited and happy. Really, really powerful.
Well,
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Well, the other core vision, and this is something that I think I first talked about it as early as like 2015, but I've always been fascinated by this idea of the attention economy.
Yes.
Every day we're bombarded with hundreds, sometimes thousands of emails, thousands of messages on social media, tweets, LinkedIn, and it's impossible to keep it all up and to actually analyze it all. And so a lot of times I turn all notifications off on my computer, on my phone. Otherwise, I don't get anything done because I'll just be bombarded all day. But part of what I see blockchain technology doing, going back to this transformative part of society, is allowing us to not only take our data and our privacy back, but to also take our time and attention back,
Yes.
and to have a direct sort of, hey, if I look at this, website for 2 seconds, there's a blockchain microtransaction that goes into my account and I get rewarded for that, right? Or if I put out this video, and you can continue to cut out the middlemen. That's one of the themes of the blockchain 2035 book, is anywhere where there's an industry where there's middlemen that can be obsoleted, by blockchain technology. But yeah, this whole idea of basically capturing our own attention back and
Yeah.
being able to choose where it goes, I think is a very powerful transformative part of this technology a lot of people aren't really talking about yet.
Well,
But
but they will, because it's intentional versus being done to. We're going to begin to understand we don't have to be done to. I mean, the joy that people have of coming up with code, nobody's telling them to, nobody's paying them to. It's just out of my pleasure to do that, which is a little like why I'm having pleasure today having a conversation with you. It's not pay.
likewise, likewise,
It's
likewise. Yeah.
um, we're about at that point where you and I could keep talking, but I think it's about time to wrap up with our folks. Are there two or three things you really want to make sure we end with?
For those that are still on the brink and they haven't stepped into this technology yet, I would encourage you to just go to the iTunes store, or the Android Play Store, download the Digibyte mobile wallet. Get in if you go to digibyte.io, you go to the community chats, and just check it out for yourself. One of the cool things is, if you're in the United States, a new service platform just popped up called VertBase. It's the first place that you can actually directly buy Digibyte with your bank account. You could go take $5, $10, $15, and just see. And until you actually send a transaction, see how fast it is, move it around, and understand there is no middle person. There is no middleman. There is no.
No bank, no Visa, no MasterCard, no PayPal.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
me sending you money.
Yeah, and then you're able to store it and keep it. And then also the other thing I would definitely advise is make sure you back it up, because that's, I think, one of the big hurdles in this space is people don't realize that you need to take. It's just like the keys to your front door of your house. If you lose your keys,
Yeah.
except in this case, you can't just drill it out and get a new one. It's completely
No.
locked away. So make sure you have backup keys somewhere. So, but then
That
also, I would just.
no, the backup key is really important.
Yes, yes, very important. But then just to finish, I would encourage people that are curious about this technology, that have an idea, that want to implement it, just to go try and do it. Just take the leap and just get started. You got to get started somewhere. I get asked all the time, like, how did you end up in this space? How did you end up as a developer? I'm like, well, I just one day looked at the core code and started going through it, and over the course of a few months, I started understanding it, and then tried compiling it, and learned as I went. So it's not like there's a magical formula. So just get out there and get started, and help build the future. I mean, it's an exciting time, and this is the transformative technology of our era.
Yes,
It really is.
and if you begin to see it out there, you'll say, "Oh my gosh, they're putting it on diamonds and on salmon, and they're putting it on eggs and on meat, and they're putting it on lettuce, and they're putting it on titles for houses, and they're putting it on contracts, and we're going to be building things so that people don't have to move paper around, much less money around. Everything's going to change, so don't wait. It's a good day to start." And I've been absolutely thrilled again to see Jared Tate and enjoy the conversation. So I'll be signing off. For those of you who come to On the Brink, a fresh lens to take your business to new heights, I'm Andy Simon, and I'm so happy that you came today. It's been truly a privilege and a pleasure, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. Send me your questions, info@andysimon.com. That's ANDI Simon.com. And it will be tweeted, and we'll be sending this out with as much information as we can, as quickly as we can. It's always fun. Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Simon. Definitely looking forward to next time.